Hi, and welcome back to another episode of Two Guys and a Lot of Wine. I'm Bobby P.
And I'm James Kimbrough.
And yet another great seasonal episode, warm weather, and an episode we're going to call Wines Under $10, that I think are going to both surprise us as well as you. And I think the excitement level is at a high level here, Jim, because I'm not sure what to expect. I know you have some surprises for me. I have some surprises for you. And whether or not those meet in a cordial fashion, we will wait and see. And as usual, I just want to say some of our fans out there in San Diego, Sandra and John Grant and Bill Kirsten, thanks for watching, thanks for your input, and everything that you have suggested. Well, I haven't done, but I'm working on it. And also, thanks to West Hartford Community Television for winning a very prestigious award, being the best small TV station in the nation. Our congratulations to you guys and all the programs that are on this channel which make that possible. And you, the audience, who watch our show.
Yeah.
So thanks again.
We hope to be a big part of them winning the award again next year.
Absolutely. And speaking of awards, Jim, let's jump right into see if we have some award-winning wines tonight.
Well, again, the theme is under $10. And you think back 10, 15 years ago, if you tried to find a wine under $10, it was a pretty scary proposition. Yeah, there were not a whole lot of great wines under $10. Today, there are a lot. And we're going to try 4 of them tonight. And hopefully, all of them will be thumbs up.
Yeah, and I know the 2 that I brought, you have not had. So I'm very excited. I'm always excited to see if I can get Jim to not like something. Just like he's trying to find if there's something I don't like. So tonight might be the night, guys. We'll have to wait and see.
All right, well, we're going to start off with a Sauvignon Blanc. This is my personal favorite. I serve this all the time when I entertain. This is the Casa Julia, and this comes from Chile. And let's give this a shot. Pour a couple of glasses here.
And this one is available locally for anybody who's interested?
Locally. I buy this at Super Sellers. I believe it's also at Maximum Beverage. It's great for entertaining because it doesn't have a whole lot of notes that are going to be harsh. It appeals to a lot of different palates. So a lot of different people can get together and enjoy this together in a group environment. So it's great for entertaining. And
I see you brought your spout that you talked about in the last show.
You know, I figured we talked about it on the show. I might as well start incorporating it.
Absolutely.
And show people how it works.
Now, it's fascinating. I already sense an aroma from this.
Just from way down here. It just jumps right out at you.
Which is a good thing for a wine under $10, because automatically that's telling you that your palate might be surprised.
Yep. Yeah, you get kind of a mandarin orange smell, and very citrusy.
You sure do, right off the bat. Very citrusy, which I generally like in a Sauvignon.
That's exactly what I look for.
Here we go. Yep. Definitely citrusy, but not in-your-face citrusy.
No.
Very mild, but at the same time, you know there's citrus here.
There is some citrus. You get some tropical notes, too, a little bit of kiwi. Very easy on the palate, though. This goes down very easy. This pairs well if you're barbecuing outside. You can do a lot of different seafood dishes with this. This will pair well with a spicy shrimp or Cajun blackened salmon or tilapia. This works very well. And normally, when you do something spicy like that, I recommend serving a Riesling or a Gewürztraminer, kind of a sweeter wine. But this will work very well with spicy foods also. So.
Yeah, you mentioned a Riesling we talked about before. I don't think we've tasted a Riesling on the show
Not yet. On the show. And I think for a future episode, we'll have to bring in a spicy dish and do a whole bunch of different Rieslings, just to show how it pairs very well.
We have this nice tablecloth. Why not put a little food in front of us while we're drinking our
wine?
As long as it doesn't interfere with the microphone. But I must say, for an under $10 Sauvignon Blanc, very impressive.
It's a great value. And I recommend this to everyone. Big thumbs up.
Yeah, definitely thumbs up on this one. And one of the other reasons I like this a lot is because it's actually warmed a little since it's been sitting here. And it still has a nice punch to it.
Right.
And it's still quite refreshing. And I know we've talked about in the past about the actual temperatures of wine, especially white wine. Should it be cold? Should it be room temperature? Should it be just below cold? Or whatever ideal temperature that some people think white wine should be. But this has been sitting, I think, perfectly, and it's really good.
Yeah, if you get a white wine too cold, it kind of kills all the flavors.
Yes.
And so then you're just drinking cold water at that point. It'll still have the alcohol in it, obviously, but there's very little flavor if you get it too chilly.
That's important to talk about, because I know, I think Tony on our show last time talked about the same thing, is when white wine is too cold, you lose so much of the characteristic of the grape. And part of the reason we do this show is because we want you to taste the grape. We want you to taste the different varietals. And I think letting these wines, especially the white wines obviously, sit a little longer out without them being chilled gives you the characteristics that you're looking for in the wine. And
yeah, I just to go back, and I know I mentioned this on a lot of shows, I store my white wines at 48 degrees Fahrenheit. And I try and serve them almost immediately so they stay right in that temperature range. If you put them in a regular refrigerator, they're going to get even colder. I think that's around 36 degrees Fahrenheit. And for some whites, that's too cold. We talked about Pinot Grigios on the last episode, and for Pinot Grigio, usually they don't have any flavor to begin with, so you can get it a lot colder and not really harm the fruit in the glass. But with this, this was at 48 degrees, and brought it over here to the studio, so it did warm a little bit.
I got to say, I'm very impressed. And I've had a lot of Chilean wines, and in general, I think I've liked most of them. But for white, this is definitely going to, especially for that price point, because when you're drinking this, it definitely tastes like a more expensive white.
It really does. And I'll be honest, to go back to what you were saying about Chile, I've had a lot of Chilean wines, and I've never been disappointed. It seems like everything they produce is just phenomenal.
Well, once again, thumbs up on the Casa Giulio. Look for that one, try it, and feel free to respond to our webpage or Facebook page. Let us know what you think, too. Now comes the interesting part of my wine for Jim. I'm very excited about this. It's a different grape varietal. I'm not overly familiar with it. I've tried it. I really enjoy it. I'm not trying to jade your opinion on this. This is a Spanish, it's from the Bodega Vina Gormaz, and it's a 70% Viejo and a 30% Vura grape. And we'll talk about that more later on. And from my experience with this wine, which has only been, I would sadly say, for the last month, it's not a Sauvignon Blanc type of wine, but it's still, in my opinion, a spring and summer wine. And we're going to find out if Jim thinks the same thing.
All right, let's do it.
And
now, these are grape varietals that you don't hear about very often here in the
not.
United States.
The 30% Vura grape is actually the most common grape that's planted in Spain. And it's usually used as a blend with other Spanish wines, especially Tempranillo. And a lot of times that's used to make some of the premier, I believe it's, the premier red Riojas that I know you like. And now, see, I'm not getting an aroma like I did with the other one from here.
And very little when I bring it up to my nose.
Yep, very small bouquet. It's not overly dramatic. It's subtle. It's a straw yellow color. I think it's a little bit darker than the Casa Giulio.
It's a little weak, and honestly, we probably should have tried this one first. I feel like the Casa Giulio is so overpowering. I'm still tasting a little bit of that, and this one's kind of fighting with the Casa Giulio remnants in my mouth.
From my experience with this one, and once again, you can try this yourself, and once again, these are also available locally. I think this one was from Liquor Depot, both in Avon and New Britain. The longer this actually sits out and develops more of a room temperature characteristic, I think the more open this becomes. This is still relatively chilled a little bit. We might go back to this one later in the show.
Sure, we can try it again. I get a little bit of a smoky taste at the end of this.
Some of the tasting notes that I looked into on this wine, they seem to think that the longer it sits, it does open up more. And it's not best to drink cold right out of the bottle. And the Bodegas Gormaz has been in operation since 1972. I think they have about 1,300 acres. And they produce some of high-quality wines out of Spain. And once again, feel free to look that up and do some research on your own before you buy it. Just in case you're interested about the history of the vineyard, I know we've talked about vineyards in the past. A lot of times if you do some research and look into the vineyard before you actually buy the wine, or if you went to a tasting and tried the wine, do some research. Find out a little bit about the characteristics of the country and actually where the vineyard is. And I believe this particular vineyard is on a very high elevation, which is going to make some differences in the taste of the grape too.
Yeah, and if you're residing here in Connecticut and you don't get out of the country, you can tour vineyards here in Connecticut. I'm going to plug the Wine Trail again. We've done this on several shows, but it's a great way to get out and experience the whole winemaking operation. And you can see how the terroir starts to come into play with a lot of these vineyards. You'll taste some wines here in Connecticut that are dramatically different from one region to the other.
Absolutely.
And Connecticut's a very small state, and you still get some differences here. So
with the elevations and everything
exactly,
else like that.
Yeah.
Oh, and one other thing about the Pinot Grimaz is the grapes in this particular wine are harvested at night. So they're generally at a cooler temperature when they bring them into the cellar, which means less oxidation. So we'll see if we can notice anything as that sits a little longer during the show. We'll come back to that later. And
why don't you pour me a little more, and
sure.
I'll just let that sit.
Let that one sit, because we're going to go to our reds in a moment anyways. A lot of people still drink whites too fast because they think they have to drink them cold. So I think the show is a good way to get people to start thinking that, let the whites sit out a little bit and don't keep them overly chilled in like an ice bucket or something like that.
Well, now you're completely contradicting what we said on the last show.
Oh.
We had summer sipping wines on our last episode, and we were trying to get wines very cold.
Oh, that's true.
If you're sitting out in the sun.
Well, that's the Pinot Grigios.
And that was the Pinot Grigios, yes. But
well, Jim, he makes an interesting point, because in general, a lot of people like their whites cold. But if they're too cold, you lose some of the flavor.
Exactly. You don't want to get it too cold. You want to serve the wine at the appropriate temperature.
So here's where, as you've said in the past, drink what you like and buy what you like, or drink what you like. Some people are probably just so used to drinking white wines at a cold temperature. As soon as it gets a little to a temperature they're not comfortable with, they just might dismiss it right off the bat.
Right. Or they throw an ice cube in it.
I throw an ice cube in. Don't do that.
Yeah.
But actually, if you want to do that, that's...
I've seen so many people do that, and it breaks my heart. They're watering down a great wine.
But I'm going to tell you one little secret about that at the end of the show, which is going to shock you. But,
all right, we'll come
we'll
back to
let that
one.
sit,
We'll come back
and I'm excited about our first red.
All right, this is the Hemisferio Carmenere. Now, Carmenere is a grape varietal you don't encounter very often here in the United States.
I don't believe I'm overly familiar with it either.
This is considered the grandfather of the Cabernet Sauvignon and the Merlot grape. And if you go back to the Bordeaux region of France, back up until 1860, this was the predominant grape varietal that they grew. And then there was a phylloxera virus that came and just wiped out a lot of the vineyards. And suddenly the winemakers had to switch to a different varietal. And they switched to Merlot and they switched to Cab. And Carmenere just kind of disappeared. Fortunately, the Chileans were growing it. They had been growing it since the 1600s. So they preserved the grape. But if you had asked them what they were growing, they said, oh, we're growing Merlot. The Carmenere grape and the Merlot grape are so similar in appearance, and especially the leaf on the vine looks almost identical. So they thought up until about 20 years ago that they were growing Merlot, and someone finally came in and did some DNA testing and said, no, this isn't Merlot, it's actually Carmenere. So it's...
That is fascinating.
I love little tidbits about wine history.
That is a great little history lesson for me, and I'm very excited to try this, because I'm going into this as a virgin, Jim.
All right, well, let's give this a shot. Again, this is what the Europeans drank up until 1860.
Beautiful color right off the bat.
It's a very deep color, kind of a cherry color.
Absolutely.
Go ahead and give that a swirl. You'll see this has phenomenal legs.
It does. I can see them slowly dripping down the glass. That's always exciting to me. Very interesting aroma.
Yeah, you get, just like with Merlot, you get kind of a meaty, fruity kind of smell to it. And then there's a hint of cedar, which is what you'd get from a Cabernet Sauvignon.
Yep.
But this is all Carmenere.
And once again, you would recommend this on a summer day or...
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Well, here we go. Delicious.
It is.
Absolutely delicious.
I would describe this as being elegant on the palate. I mean, it's almost seducing your mouth. It kind of slowly works its way all the way across the whole spectrum of your tongue. And I'm still tasting it now. It's got such a long, smooth finish.
This is why people like me and Jim get excited, because it's love making in a glass. And when it's the right wine, it really is quite spectacular. Now, once again, we're talking about wines under $10. So this is another example of how a wine under $10 can just be so both elegant and smooth, yet have a lot of characteristics in your mouth.
Right. And I've gone to tastings and had $40, $50 wines, sometimes $80 wines, and they've been horrible. And maybe there's somebody out there who loves the wine and agrees with their palate, but it doesn't agree with mine. And for $10 to get something that just does so many different things in your mouth, this is such a great deal and a great way to experience what people who do this for a living are experiencing when they're tasting $100 bottles.
And once again, I mean, it's another example of the variety of wines that are out there for you to try. And this is a classic example that you might have some people just would walk right past because they're not familiar with
Right.
it at all.
They don't know Carmenere. They've never heard of it.
They would either think maybe it's too sweet, they're not familiar at all with the type of grape it is or nothing, and just walk right past. And you would be passing up something quite spectacular. And I tell you right now, if you serve this to your friends at any cookout or any dinner, they would not believe the price point.
No.
And I would recommend not telling them the price point till well into the evening.
Right, exactly. Make a game out of it.
Don't let them get their predispositions up early in the evening.
Yeah, this wine, they've actually aged this in French oak, which you would think would make the wine more expensive. Normally, when you use oak or then French oak, that just adds to the price point of the wine. But somehow they've kept this under $10 and still managed to use French oak, and that kind of lends it kind of a toast flavor and a little bit of vanilla. It's subtle.
It is a subtle vanilla. I get the toast thing, but it's one of those wines that we've had wines on this show where I'm still tasting it right now. This one, it's subtle. It's still there, but it's not so much that it's like I need something else to counteract the thing that's going on in my mouth.
Yeah, this drinks well on its own. You could also pair this with pork or beef. It would go great with either of those meats.
How were you exposed to this one? Did you just find this as a fluke?
Yeah, I go to so many tastings and try so many wines, and this one just jumped out at me the moment I had it.
I got to say, it's really quite spectacular, and I don't use that term loosely. And when you're drinking as many wines as Jim and I have, at a lot of different price points, if we weren't doing this show under $10 and he had 2 surprise bottles and I had 2 surprise bottles, I would put that probably in the $20 range,
Yeah.
if not more.
And I would pay $30 to $35 for this if I had to.
Well,
it's that good.
After this wine, we're going to go into the reds that I tend to be more prone to, as those of you who have been watching the show. I still am sort of a French Bordeaux guy, and whenever I can find a French Bordeaux at a price point under $10, I'm always excited. Now, whether or not Jim will be as excited as I was, we'll find out in a few moments, because we do have some differences on French wines. I like the mineral, I like the terroir in the French soil. I like what it does to the French reds, especially from the Bordeaux region. And Jim sometimes does not always overly...
A lot of those wines tend to be earthy, and like a typical American, I tend to gravitate towards wines that are more fruity. And that's the difference between the American palate and the European palate.
That's true. That's true. Why I developed this particular palate for French, I'm not exactly sure, because it certainly was not the first wine I was exposed to when I got into wine almost 15, 16 years ago. I actually think it was, Australian wine, I believe. It's been so long and so many bottles. But when I actually started finding good French wine, it's still one of my favorites, and we're going to get into that one right now when you're done.
Well, but what you're saying proves the point that there's a wine out there for everyone. Everyone's palate is different, but there are so many wines out there. You're bound to sooner or later find the wine that is perfect for your palate. And if you found the French Bordeaux to be the best thing for your palate, go ahead and drink those.
Yeah, whether or not they are the best things for my palate, I do not know for sure, because I'm still enjoying trying all the different varietals. This one we just had right now, phenomenal. And for our viewers out there, and I would strongly recommend doing this now that we've had quite a few shows under our belt, when you see these wines that we're tasting, try to go out and get them a few days beforehand and taste them with us. They're usually up on our Facebook page, or you should put them up on the Facebook page.
Friend us on Facebook, and you'll get all the updates on what we're going to drink for the next episode.
Because that's the best way to experience what we're doing right here. Now, the French Bordeaux that we'll get into in a moment is one of my favorites at the price point. It is Chateau Gazette Bordeaux. It's a 2008. And to find a 2008 Bordeaux in that price range, to me, is phenomenal. Once again, locally available. I think this was also from Liquor Depot in Avon. They don't always have a lot of these in stock. It depends on how many they sold. Sometimes they're in, sometimes they're out. But This particular one has been one of my favorites this year, and I'm hoping that it will be one of Jim's, but no pressure, Jim.
Let's give it a shot. Now, I've enjoyed everything we've had so far on the show. So.
Yes, you have. Now, I could already see the color on this one is more like we had this comment last time. It's more of a bricky color.
It is. There's a little more brown in this than the last wine we had.
Which goes into Jim's thing about the more mineral soil aspects of, even though that's not the case, it just makes some people think that that's the case.
Exactly. That's the psychological connection.
Good bouquet.
Yeah, just on the nose, I'm getting kind of the earthy aroma off of this.
Completely different tasting than Carmenere.
It is, and I get some licorice in this.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a little anise, which is very close to licorice.
A little bit more stringent.
Yep.
You can still. That's a good characteristic when you're drinking or you're trying to compare red wines. This wine, smooth. The Casimir,
Carmenere.
Carmenere, smooth, subtle. It sort of massaged the palate. This one attacks it a little bit more.
A little bit, but it's not harsh.
Not harsh.
There are a lot of harsh wines out there, so I don't want you to think that what we're drinking right now is going to have that nasty, harsh, attacking your mouth kind of quality to it. It's just when you compare it to the Carmenere, there is a little bit of stinging going on.
Yeah, there is, and I can still taste it in the back of my head.
Yeah.
I actually like that, but once again, for me, and the reason I brought this particular one in tonight, whenever I can find a French Bordeaux at this price point, and there are some out there, but I wanted to bring something that I was familiar with, and I really particularly like this particular one, and whether or not you will, that's up to you, but I think for the price point, to get a Bordeaux from 2008, I think it's pretty good.
I completely agree. For $10 or under $10, if you pair this with a cheese, it's going to mellow out that slight astringent taste that you're talking about. And as I drink more of this, I don't even taste that anymore. I think it was, the remnants of the Carmenere made this seem so much more astringent. But now, as I drink more of this, I don't even get that quality anymore.
Yeah, the second sip, I don't get it quite as much either. But there's still a noticeable difference in flavor between the two.
Yes.
And whether or not it's negative or positive, that's up to your palate. But
I think, if you had a brie cheese that you were serving with this, or a goat cheese, this would be a phenomenal wine.
And that's another important factor. I mean, so many of these reds especially go so good with cheeses. And, if you're going to have a bunch of people over, maybe a pre-dinner cocktail party or something like that, pairing these with a wide variety of cheeses, I think, is a good way to start an evening. I know we've done it many times, and the evenings has progressed to well into the late, early mornings. But
but it's fun to sit down like you do with 5 or 6 different cheeses and taste the same wine with each cheese and see how it changes. So cheeses have different qualities just like wines have different qualities.
That's right.
And so you're trying to find the perfect marriage between the wine you're drinking and the cheese. And so, sometimes you want a really creamy cheese, and other times you want something that's more like a Parmesan or some kind of brick-like cheese. You got to just cut it away with a knife.
And I would recommend do some research on Bordeaux Frenches, because I've always been a big fan of Bordeaux's, and there's plenty of research out there, plenty of places you can go to do research on French Bordeaux's, because there's so many varieties, and the price points can go from under $10 to into the hundreds of dollars. So just take that into consideration.
Yeah, but Bordeaux gets kind of confusing for the American drinker, because Bordeaux is a region, and most Americans are used to buying wine based on the wine varietal. So they think, okay, I want a Cab or I want a Merlot. When they go to the wine store and they buy a French wine and they're buying Bordeaux, they don't know which varietal they're getting. So that's going back to what you were saying. You have to do a little bit of research.
That's true.
And
it was just like when Tony was on the last show about Italian wines are the same. You're
Right.
buying from a particular area of the country, and in that area of the country there could be hundreds of small vineyards that are producing either a Bordeaux or an Italian wine. So it's something else to look into if you really get into a serious wine buying or wine tasting career like we have. And speaking of career, I think this particular little white wine that's been sitting for a while is ready to give us another shot
back.
to see
All
if
right.
it's opened up at all.
And the name of this again for our viewers?
Yes, this was the Vino Gourmaz. It's the Bodegas Gourmaz, and it is a 70% Brieju and a 30% Vura. And once again, the best way to characterize it is it's not as strong as a Sauvignon Blanc, but it has the characteristics of, not a Pinot Grigio.
Oh no, it's got a lot more body.
It's got a lot more body.
Flavor than a Pinot Grigio.
You'd have to try it on your own and make your own opinions as to what you think it tastes like. But I actually like this one a lot. And the grape originated in North Africa and was spread to Spain, I think, in around the 11th century.
So it's a very old grape.
It is an old grape.
Even though you haven't heard of it here in the United States, it's been around.
I don't really sense it opening up that much more. So what I'm going to do with this one, I'm going to say it's still a good white for the price point.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I like it a lot better now that we had the Bordeaux. So if,
yeah.
And this is odd because usually you're supposed to drink whites before reds. In this case, I would drink the Bordeaux before the white.
You know, I think because they're all in the range where they're not right in your face overpowering.
Mm-hmm.
So pretty much everything we drank tonight is subtle. So there's nothing that jumps right out at you and smacks you in the face a few times. All these wines just sort of massage and slowly build up or slowly caress you. Mm-hmm. I'm speaking like a wine lover, but they're all good. So that's the best way I can explain it. And I'm going to still give it a thumbs up because the last month I've been enjoying this, and I'm going to give it a thumbs up.
I'm going to give this a thumbs up also. Everything we've had tonight, thumbs up. 4 great wines, all under $10.
All under $10, you cannot go wrong.
No.
And I must give a plug to this bottle right here, which you might be seeing is empty. This was going to originally be one of the ones that I was tasting. But me and my lovely wife, Carrie, were out for dinner having a nice Cobb salad, eggplant pizza. And this bottle that I originally had planned for bringing on the show was consumed very quickly. And it was phenomenal. It is also a Bordeaux. It is also under $10. It is the Chateau Thomas Laurent. It is available locally. And I'm going to call this off the grid. So look for this on your own. We didn't get a chance to taste it together.
And that's under $10.
This is under $10. It's off the grid, but it's delicious. So next time you're out there, Jim, feel free
I'll look for it.
to look for it. And, you know, we're just about ready to wrap up yet another fantastic show on wine. And
I want to remind everybody, friend us on Facebook or like us or share us with your friends. There's a lot of different ways to go out and recommend us on Facebook. Also, if you want to watch previous episodes of our show, you can go to whctv.org or you can go to youtube.com.
And once again, Jim, cheers.
Cheers.
I'm Bobby P.
And I'm James Kimbrough.
And until next time,
Keep us
in your wine cellar.